To give a disclaimer about my story before sharing it with the world. Before doing so, I would like to keep the individuals within this story anonymous, so I will be utilizing alias names to protect the identity of the following individuals. The events of this story may be very disturbing to some viewers, so viewer discretion is highly advised. This story happened when I was in my late 30s. I was a full-time mortician and enjoyed every single second of my job. Seeing the dead carcasses of human remains come in and out of the morgue, it was symbolic in a sense where that was the end of the deceased person's existence in this world. It was equivalent to closing a cover of a book that told the story of an individual's life and then putting it away for good on a bookshelf. My wife of 16 years wasn't fond of my occupation much. To be honest, I don't exactly blame her, as any spouse dealing with the same circumstances probably underwent the same mutual feelings. My wife and I weren't exactly the wealthiest people, so we rented the basement of my best friend, who lived on the top floor with his wife and children. We were all mutual friends from high school, so that made our time living there much more bearable than living with complete strangers. I remember meeting my wife at our high school cafeteria. From the moment I laid eyes on her, I could tell she was going to be the one. We ended up dating, which eventually blossomed into a relationship and then of course marriage.
You're the best husband ever. You know that?
I wish I could say the same about you. I'm just joking. You are the greatest wife ever. Sound better?
Of course. Promise you'll never leave me?
You'll always be with me. A promise is a promise. Like I said before, we've been together for 16 long committed years, but not all fairy tales conclude with a happy ending. It was a Friday evening when I was out with some friends at a local gentleman's club for one of my colleagues' 40th birthday. I personally didn't tell my wife, as I didn't want to hear her fuss about watching other females dance exotically behind her back. So I let her know that I was visiting some family relatives. The time was roughly 11 p.m. when I began drinking beer after beer, shot glass after shot glass. I had completely lost count of the amount of beers I had consumed due to the overbearing amount of orders me and my friend put in on the tab. My surroundings became blurry as the temperature in the room gradually increased the longer I sat in one spot. I could legitimately feel my head throbbing and could hear every pulse exerting the blood from my veins to my temple. A head rush from hell then began to stir my brain up as sweat began dripping down the side of my face. That's when my friend Jake jokingly confronts me by saying, "Dude, what would you do if your wife ended up finding out that you were here?" "It's not a big deal. We've been married for 16 years, so she's not going anywhere." Speak of the devil. You gonna answer that? I remember hearing and feeling my phone vibrate on the side of my pants pocket. Answer it. I can't. She must know that I'm here. Dude, what are you talking? Just shut up and mind your business. Dude, I can buy you a lap dance if that'll calm you down. Sheesh. I felt like my friend was intentionally trying to exasperate me immensely, like he was poking the bear and was questioning the integrity of my relationship. I honestly felt like no matter who approached or talked to me that night, I was going to throw an impromptu hissy fit from the paranoid state and guilty conscience that manifested inside my head. That's when I couldn't bear the sight of sitting at that club anymore, nor could I stand any interactions with the people in general any longer. I abruptly got up to leave the premises as my friends began talking under their breath saying, "Did you guys see how much he was sweating? He must have been nervous as hell from his wife. Huh, hope he got a prenup." How the hell could he sweat so much? The AC is freaking cold as hell. As I make my way out of the gentleman's club, I began to slowly tumble towards my house as I felt extremely intoxicated. I contemplated calling an Uber, but just decided to walk home, as the walk wasn't that far and it gave me an opportunity to sober up. My leg that had the pocket with my phone inside it began feeling slightly jittery from the radiation. I remember taking my phone out of my pocket and seeing that I had at least 100 missed calls from my wife. This led me to believe that something odd was going on. As I got closer to my house, I could hear a swarm of fire trucks and police sirens echoing throughout my neighborhood. After a couple steps closer, I could then make out that my house had been engulfed in fire. That's when I ran towards one of the police sergeants standing nearby and yelled, "That's my house! Please help! My wife and my best friend are in there!" "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. Our fire department is taking care of it right now." "Hello? Sir, are you okay?" And that's when I blacked out. About 24 hours after that incident, it was announced that my wife and my best friend were officially pronounced dead at the scene, and had suffered third-degree burns from the fire that had burned the household down. The investigators were unfortunately unable to identify what might have caused the fire, but they speculate that it might have been caused by a gas leak from the furnace in our basement. But I have a confession. I was the sole reason of why that fire happened. I couldn't stand to see my wife or my best friend alive any longer. Prior to their death, I remember heading home from work early one day, only to catch them having an affair with each other. It was at that point that I could have confronted the both of them, but instead, I took a different approach and texted my wife saying, "I'm gonna be home late. Go and have a drink with the boys after work is done." Her response was,
Have fun. Text me before you come home. Love you.
That drove me to the point of insanity, which made me set a part of the house on fire before sprinting to the gentleman's club to meet with my friends. I'm a little ashamed by my actions, but at the same time, I felt like it was the right thing to do, as they're both in a better place right now. My conscience would have been worse if my friend's wife and children were involved, but luckily, they weren't, as they were fortunately at a close relative's house. When going to both my wife's and my best friend's funeral, I honestly had the urge to disclose to his wife how much of a cheating and ungrateful bastard he was, but I obviously kept my mouth shut until now. Despite my wife having an affair, I still miss and love her dearly. As deceitful and untrustworthy as my wife was, I still found it in me to forgive her for her perfidious acts. The memories we had shared since high school were something I still cherished, even if it was a little tarnished or compromised from the affair. I remember spreading her lips wide open, using my thumb and index finger. I even had the courtesy of peeling back open her eyelids, just so I could see more of those beautiful eyes. Look at her. So beautiful. You look exactly the same way when we first dated. You know that? The deeper I indulged myself by gazing into her eyes, the more emotional I became, as I knew that this was going to be the last time seeing the glistening sparkle shine in her pupils. I began to arch over her corpse and leaned over by drawing my face about an inch over her burnt, charred face, just like we used to when she was alive. That's when I stuck my tongue out and began to French kiss her, exactly the way we used to do it when she was alive. I forgive you, Hannah. I told you that you'll always be with me. I'm a man of my word, right? A promise is a promise.